sun exist, and why do we need God? Oh well, what is the purpose of this? He's saying that the sun doesn't have a purpose. He's saying.
No, the sun does not have a purpose.
Do you believe that?
The sun doesn't have a purpose.
The sun exists. This gentleman thinks the sun has a purpose to give us life.
To keep you alive. I didn't say to give you life. To keep you alive.
The sun is a star like any other. It exists. Whether we were here or not, it would exist. So the sun does not have a purpose. He's ascribing an anthropomorphic character to it because he needs to feel like he's essential.
First of all, that's nice, interesting discussion there. But what's your name, first of all?
Steve.
How you doing, Steve? Mohammed.
Hi, Mohammed.
Nice to meet you. Did you come here for Tommy? did you come here with him now?
I came here for free speech.
Okay, nice one. Let's have a little. Sorry, I apologize. What at the heart of this discussion is what's referred to as teleology. It's not anthropomorphism, because what you've said here is anthropomorphic qualities, right?
Yeah.
Because if you look at the word anthropomorphism in a dictionary, it has three meanings. It actually has three meanings. If you look at Oxford Dictionary, open it up. Anthropomorphism is ascribing human characteristics to God, one, that's the definition, or ascribing inanimate characteristics to something which is animate. So for example, I say you stone face, right? So that's anthropomorphism. What you meant to say was personification, because personification is when you give inanimate objects animate characteristics.
Okay, fair.
Yeah, no problem. But even then, we have to have a discussion on teleology, because that's what it is. What he was trying to say is that from a first-person subjective experience, it would seem that things are functional and purposeful. Now, purpose is itself a subjective thing. My purpose, my idea of purpose could be different from your idea of purpose. A better word to use in the context of a materialistic environment, I will put to you, is functionality.
I said it has function. Yes.
Yeah, okay,
so I agree.
So I would say, look, the sun has a function. I would agree with Hashem that it has purpose from my first-person subjective experience.
But that wasn't the point he was making. He was saying it has a purpose,
Okay.
objective and outside. The
All
sun
right.
is here for a reason, which it is not.
He's
It
got his own.
simply is.
He has an epistemology, by which and through which he's come to that conclusion. But before we're going into this teleological argument, I think we have to think a little bit more abstract. If I were to ask you the question, though, because this is a subjective question, you can decide not to answer. You can say that there's no such thing as purpose. You can take a postmodern view on it. You can take a Nietzschean understanding on it, and that's fine.
I respect that you read philosophy.
Thank you. But if I say to you, look, what is your purpose in life? I'm being second person now. I'm being personal to you. What is your purpose in life?
That's totally beside the first point we were making there. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's relevant to the
Okay,
argument
fine, no
of a
problem.
universe having purpose, because
Okay,
that is you
excellent.
ascribing purpose to it, as opposed to it having a
No
purpose
problem.
of its
I
own.
wouldn't make an argument from purpose.
Good.
I would say to you, look, how did the universe, in your opinion, come to
I
existence?
don't know.
Yeah. What do you reckon the inference to the best explanation is?
I would say not God.
Okay, so what do you think it is?
I don't know. For me, God is a fallacious concept because you start by defining God as outside
Yes.
with no internal logic beyond saying it's outside, so you can have it as a first cause.
Huh? No, but look sorry. Apologies. I'm just making sure everything is all right. Yeah, go ahead.
His turn. Based on his.
Apologies.
So, in order to define the universe as starting with God as a first cause, you have to decide God is simply outside of this.
I haven't mentioned God.
No, you haven't, but this is the argument that's made over there, which is why I say I don't know.
Right.
And scientists perfectly have to say we have a theory, but we don't know. I don't see any reason to ascribe it to a universal deity that is outside of any understanding we have, simply because it is outside the understanding. To me, that is as much a cop-out as saying the universe is infinite.
And you're right. If the argument was made like that, it would sound a little bit problematic. But that's not the way I'd make the argument. So I'm just asking here, the question I put forward was, what is the inference to the best explanation to the existence of the universe? And what is your how do you know anything? How do we know things?
That's a big question, isn't it?
Yeah. What's your epistemology?
What's yours, if I could ask first?
In my opinion, I think that we can get to know something either using empiricism, with the five senses, intuition, I think we're gonna.
You can cut
forget
this
it.
short if you want to go.
No, I don't. I just want to see that everyone's behaving themselves today, because apologize about that. Yeah, sorry. Intuition,
I agree.
empiricism.
Empiricism, subjective, personal experience, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how you get to know things. So with that, I would say, like, for example, laws of rationality and logic are a good way of finding out truth. In my discussions, I always presuppose a truth, the existence of a truth.
Right.
So if someone wants to start from that starting point, it makes a lot of sense to continue the discussion. Now, if we say there's no such thing as truth, and once again go into a moral relativism or something like that, or a complete relativism.
Right. But what is your starting stance? What is your presupposition? That God
So
exists?
no. My presupposition is that truth exists, and that we are sentient.
How are you defining truth? Because we've defined knowledge and learning, but we haven't defined truth. Are we talking transcendent? Are we talking self-evident? What is truth in this context?
So, truth in this context is something which exists in the real world, okay, which is consistent and has an opposite, as will be put by in the Aristotelian philosophers. They made like a square of opposition. I'm not sure if you've seen this.
Yeah, getting the mention effects out.
Yeah, so it's like you've got this, if you look up the square of opposition, you realize that something which is true usually has an antithesis.
Right, so we're talking about logical truth as opposed to
logical truth
in the real world.
No,
in that sense.
I would say that logical truth and truth in the real world are not dichotomous. That it's not a dualism. That there is in fact a truth in the real world.
So, well, okay, but the only truth that can be demonstrated in that sense is a logical truth. So you can't say the flaw
or
is
physical.
No, you can't demonstrate truth in that
if we
sense.
agree that empiricism.
Yeah, but that's different to a pure logical truth. Empiricism not necessarily involves subjectiveness, right? So if we're talking about truth as a sort of transcendent concept,
I presuppose the mind, and I presuppose that my first-person subjective experience is not a deception. Going back to René Descartes and the deception of his meditations, right? So I think my senses are not fooling me. I say that my senses are not fooling me.
And you base that on?
Based on the fact, yeah.
It's all you've got to go off. So
on the cogito.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue that point.
Yeah, on the
cogito.
cogito.
Bollocks.
So I would just say, based on my existence, I think therefore I am. I think that is quite powerful.
Yeah.
So based on that, you can say that you can build from that. You know, so I presuppose the mind. I presuppose truth existing in the real world, and the real world and metaphysically, like in mathematics and the realm of logic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I presuppose that we are rational sentient creatures that are able to ascertain the truth. So these are my presuppositions laid out, right? So before we can continue in the incremental process of trying to find the truth, I think that I'm laying my cards bare. If you agree with the same presuppositions, then we can proceed.
Apart from where you said that you can find the truth, I'd say you can find a truth. Because I think at that point truth is subjective once you're finding it. Because you're then necessarily putting your own put on it.
I would say there is a
truth.
I think there is the truth.
You can demonstrate the truth, you can find a truth.
I think you can demonstrate the truth.
I disagree, but we can carry on.
So I would say, like, for example, 2 + 2 = 4 is not a truth, but it's the truth.
Yeah. But what I'm saying was, but you're demonstrating that. Once you're saying you're finding a truth, I'd say demonstrating.
But I would say I'm demonstrating a definite truth here.
Yeah, but that's logic, that's maths.
So right. So would you accept that you can demonstrate a definite truth?
Yeah, from a logical standpoint.
Okay, good,
but
excellent. So I think
this
world. Base in epistemology is very important as a starting point, right? So here we've accepted like mathematics and deductionism and inference. Now, for me, inference works in the following way. I see something and I make conclusions based on the evidence I have. In fact, that's the dictionary definition of the word inference. The word inference, if you look in the Oxford Dictionary, is a conclusion based on evidence. So, for me, the inference to the best explanation, which explains the phenomena of the universe, for me, is something which existed prior to the universe and which caused the universe. So I presuppose causation. I believe causation is a truth.
Right.
Some obviously philosophers don't accept this.
Yeah.
I say that causation exists and something caused the universe.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, you know the standard atheist response, which is then what caused the cause.
No, but I know that's the standard atheist response, but we have to accept the main argument. We can answer that question, but if we're saying something caused the universe, then we can start moving on, okay, what is the standard atheist response? But if we agree with that as a starting point, do we agree with that?
I don't know that I'd agree.
So what are your points of objection here?
My point of objection is that personally, we have the laws of thermodynamics. Something can't come from nothing, right?
Right.
Which is our best understanding at the current time. That's my best understanding. I'm not a physicist.
Well, it's mathematics as well, even in metaphysics.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're going to start talking quantum mechanics things, they don't necessarily work intuitively and logically.
Yeah, that's true.
But I will agree that it would seem that something can't come from nothing.
Yeah.
But that we don't know how the universe started. So that's not a universal truth in the transcendent sense. It's simply our best knowledge at this point.
Okay.
So when you are saying I have to agree that there is a cause, I don't agree. I think that makes sense. Makes sense
what you're
to a
saying,
point, but
that causation is something which we've figured out. I'm just trying to see where your point is.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me if I'm right or wrong with what you're saying. What you're saying is causation is something which we infer or we can empirically discover. Therefore, because that's our current understanding, we have a problem of induction. It could be a case that that causation becomes null and void in the future or something.
yeah.
Okay.
To an extent.
Fine, no problem. I'll put another C there because causation and contingency. The thing is, it's not just causation. The universe is, I would argue, not just caused, but it's also contingent, meaning dependent. Just like anything within the universe is contingent. That's the point, right? What is it dependent upon?
Well, no. You've thrown out something out
Yeah.
there. Explain that further. Why
Right,
is it
so
contingent upon?
we have two possibilities. It can either be contingent upon or dependent upon something which is itself dependent, or it can be dependent upon something which is independent.
I'm not seeing the logical connection. You're saying it must be contingent, but you're not demonstrating that.
No, I said it could be
Alright,
either.
so can you
it's
demonstrate?
it's either contingent upon something which is dependent itself or independent.
Yeah, but so you're not demonstrating why it needs to be contingent.
Well, I would argue that anything within the domain and the cosmos has been proven, both empirically, right, through inference, to be contingent.
Sorry, you're gonna have to explain that concept further.
Okay, so let me just make it as simple as possible, right? Tell me something which is not dependent upon something. Give me an example of something in the universe which is independent, which is, there's no interdependence.
Dark matter.
Dark matter is dependent upon the universe's existence.
Yeah. So, but why is the universe then dependent on something else? That's what you're saying. So what you're asking me to do is demonstrate something from inside a system that is contingent upon the system, but you're saying the system itself is contingent on something else, but you are disregarding the fact that you've said the system is one on the whole.
Do you reckon that the system itself is independent?
Sorry, no.
Because
You're asking me to demonstrate something that isn't contingent from within the system, but you are claiming that the system itself is contingent. So
Yeah.
obviously I can't demonstrate that because you're asking me to prove something that I can't prove unless I agree with your hypothesis.
sorry, say that one more time. I apologize.
Right.
Sorry.
So if the universe
Yeah.
contains everything, that is the set, and then you're asking me to use something from within that
Are
set.
you a mathematician?
No. You're
But
asking,
I like the set. I like the
you're
set.
asking me to demonstrate something from within that set that isn't contingent, but we both know that obviously anything from within that set is contingent upon the set. But your claim is that the
Yes.
set itself is contingent on something else, but
Yeah.
you're not demonstrating that. You're just asserting.
Yeah, no, I haven't said that. What I've said is, it's either contingent upon. These are your actual choices here.
No, but you're asserting this, but you're not demonstrating it logically. You're saying it is contingent.
No,
but
I've
you're
said
not saying
what
why.
I've said is. Remember, what I'm saying is we're doing an inference to the best explanation.
I'm just asking why.
Just
tell me
I'm
why.
asking you, is this universe dependent or independent
Of what?
on something else? So is it dependent on itself or is it independent? Sorry, is it independent or is it dependent upon something
I don't think it
else?
needs to be ascribed either of those characteristics.
Pardon?
From a quantum physics point of view, the universe doesn't actually exist.
Yeah, okay.
I don't
just
think
a
it's
bunch of
necessary
energy waves moving
to ascribe either of those characteristics. I think you're asking me to make a choice. It doesn't need to be, and you're not logically demonstrating why either of those need to be true.
Let me ask you a question. Let me try and break this down to the lowest common multiple, yeah? Do you accept that there is no such thing as randomness?
No.
Do you believe in randomness?
Sorry, are we talking about chaos theory in the sense
Yeah, no, I'm asking you, do you believe in random generations?
random generations, as in from a physics sense, or
No,
are we talking about two
does
things that happen
random
with no reason?
Does randomness exist?
Yes.
So can you give me an example of randomness?
Sorry, are we talking in a physics sense here, or are we talking in a philosophical sense?
No, in a philosophical sense, in a physics sense, I think they're
Right,
intertwined.
so how are you defining randomness? You're saying things that happen without cause, without reason?
No, random is something. this is exactly. Let me give you an example, right? This is a new argument. Let me put a new argument to the table, yeah. Because I've done a lot of contingency. I've done a lot of cosmological, but let me do this new argument. Randomness. Say if I got a coin.
I've got a question.
I'll say this and I'll bring it up, yeah? If I bring out a coin, yeah? And I flip the coin, what are the chances it will land on head?
Right, you're going to say 50-50, yeah?
So you'll say 50-50, right? What if I told you the chances of it landing on heads is 1 over infinity? What would you say about that?
I'd say you'd have to break that down for me, bro.
Okay. So listen, why do you think it's 50-50?
Because it has two sides, assuming it's roughly symmetrical on either side.
Because of your experience with coins in the past.
Well, also the mathematical models.
No, you're right. But what I'm saying is, if you had, for example, if there was a situation whereby you flip a coin, like for example, if you had no experience of coins, yeah, tabula rasa, let's say you come into the world without any experience of anything, like a baby, yeah? If you have a baby, and a baby sees that a coin was flipped, and then it turns into a bird. Like you flip a coin and it turns into a bird. And then you flip it again and it turns into Tommy Robinson, okay? You know, and you flip it again and it turns into Adolf Hitler. No connection, of course. But you know, you keep flipping it and different things come up. So you keep flipping the coin and it keeps changing, yeah? Now, that's the true randomness. You know why? Because because here there's a presupposition, you know that, which David Hume outlined. The presupposition of science and of our interactions, our transactions, is that previous event or future events will mimic previous events, right? So for instance, the reason why you said that it's 50-50 the coin, because actually your experience with coins is that whenever you flip them, it's either heads or tails, unless it lands on the side or something.
That's
right?
just a mathematical
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But mathematics applied to the real world, that's how we're talking about. Because maths is not in the real world. Mathematics is a metaphysical construct, according to every philosopher. No one has disagreed with it, from Plato onwards. So therefore I say to you, if you flip a coin, and the actual, from a philosophical perspective, bearing in mind that we cannot presuppose that previous events will entail future events, is 1 over infinity, because we don't know, as a matter of absolute truth, that if we flip a coin, that it's not going to turn into Tommy Robinson.
Did we not start this argument with the presuppositions that there's inference, though?
Pardon?
We started this argument with various presuppositions that we were moving forward from, which you're now removing.
No, I'm saying, right? So I agree, yeah, but I didn't say one of the presuppositions is that past events will entail future events.
Well, no, you did. You said we presuppose that we have rationality, knowledge, and inference.
Yeah,
which then necessarily means that we're using our experience.
But inference...
You're kind of moving the goalpost there.
No, accepted. I was making an argument, right? But inference could be based on two kinds of experience. Inference is based on experience. You cannot have an inference unless you've had some kind of experience of the past.
Right, you could have second-hand knowledge, but...
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So, can you see the argument here? So, what I'm saying is, this entails that there is an order of the universe. Do you know why? Because these patterns, the fact that we can flip a coin now, it'll be 50-50, that is a pattern that has been recognized from X amount of trials with coins. And we've realized that the pattern is, if we flip a coin, it can either be heads or tails.
Humans made the coin.
Yeah, no, hold on, mate, carry on.
Do you see what I'm saying? That's a pattern.
Yeah, but...
So that's what science is based on. The fact. Do you know what science is? It's based on the presupposition that that the past. Science is kind of like history. It's looking at the patterns and regularities of of the universe of the past.
Yeah.
And then we're applying that logic to the future. So what I'm saying to you is this: that entails order, it
entails constants, not order.
Consistency. So that's why randomness cannot exist in the real world. Because if the universe is ordered in that sense, then everything that happens is ordered in that way. These are laws of physics, so to speak.
No. You're saying order, but that's ascribing, again, a characteristic that isn't there. We have constants. We have things that we observe to be unchanging. When you say order, you're ascribing a sort of metaphysical value to it. You're saying it is a way because, when it's not. It simply is a way.
Okay, so here's what I'm saying, right? Randomness, in my opinion, is when somebody does not understand the pattern and ascribes to it a question mark. Yeah?
Right.
So, for example, you know Leplas, he said, that he used the pool example. This is really interesting. He said
I'm
if
not
you,
familiar.
okay, so he said the pool example.
Can you tell me what
Yeah, the pool example.
is?
If you hit a ball, and it hits all the other balls, the white ball. If you see a kid, you say, "What's going on here?" The balls are going all randomly, right? They're random. But he'll say to you, based on the fact, based on the mathematics, everything follows a system based on the mathematics.
Right.
And just because we don't understand the system, we ascribe randomness to it.
Right.
The point I'm trying to make to you in a nutshell is that laws of nature exist in the physical realm, in the domain. These laws of nature allow us to do science in the first instance. These are patterns. And these patterns entail, once again, order. So we have to ask a question. Constance, fine. Consistency, order. I believe order is it can be interchangeable sometimes with these things, right? So what I'm saying is, where did the order come from? If there's no randomness, why is the universe ordered?
Well, no, that's exactly.
Just back up a bit, more people can hear.
Sorry, I apologize.
That's exactly why I object to the word order, because order then has that. Sort
Okay,
of
can we use the word pattern?
No, let's use the word constant. A universal constant doesn't require someone to order it, someone to make it. It simply is the way the universe works.
But you know,
on
even
our
if I say the word
observation.
order, it doesn't.
Well, no, because you're using that to lead the argument into where does this order come from, implying it needs a cause, which it doesn't.
I can see, but I'm not using the causation argument here.
No, but you're kind of trying to lead it
No,
there.
what I'm saying here is,
Let's just use the word constants then.
okay, fine, you can use the word constants. I haven't got a problem, but I haven't got an issue with the word order either, or pattern.
No, obviously you don't.
No, I think this is fine. The word pattern, it literally means a consistent thing that can be analysed from point X to point Z.
I'm not objecting to
So
pattern.
let's say pattern. Why are there patterns in the universe? My question. That's all it is.
There simply are.
No, but why do they exist?
No, they simply do.
Why though?
They simply do.
What is the explanation of the
Why
pattern?
does God exist?
Why does he exist?
So, see, because now if we get back to the very start of the
No,
argument.
but we are presupposing the existence of God now.
No, we're not talking.
Yeah.
But you're asking, why do constants exist? Why do
Yeah.
order exist?
Yeah.
You are needing them to have a cause, right?
No.
No, you are. You're saying, why do they exist? You're saying they need a purpose.
No,
which
no,
they don't.
I
They
have said
simply
nothing
do.
about purpose. I've said nothing about
No,
purpose.
you asked, why do they exist?
I'm just talking about existentially. Why are they in place
They
rather
do.
than
They
rather than the opposite of them,
They simply
which
are.
is randomness, which doesn't exist?
They simply are. That is the universe we're in.
Okay, so this is the point, right?
I'm failing to see your point.
No, okay, sorry. No. The point is, I see that me and you both recognize the reality of patterns in the universe.
You recognise there are universal constants as best as we can observe.
And you
them,
call them
yes.
patterns, and I haven't got a problem calling them constants either, yeah?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, from where can we explain the existence of these patterns?
They simply are. We don't
Are
know.
would you be okay calling them laws? In the vernacular, we call them laws of physics
Yeah.
sometimes, right?
Yeah. As
So
long as you're not going to
I'm-
lead this into them requiring
I
someone
know.
to...
Yeah,
Make a
sorry.
little point about what you
Do you want to come in? Yeah, sorry. Apologies.
If you want to
Yeah.
jump in, man, I have a
talking
train
about-
to catch.
All right, but you see what I'm saying. Thank you very much for that. It was very
I
enlightening.
do, kind of.
Yeah?
I mean, I don't agree, but I see where you're going with it.
Thank you very much, man. Take care. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. You can take over.
patterns.
Yes, sir.
You ever studied Islamic geometric design?
What, the whole thing with no, not really.
You haven't?
No, I haven't.
Studied?
I haven't studied it. No. I haven't studied geometry to any depth either.
Oh, that's surprising.
No, I haven't. I mean,
So it's used to decorate all sorts
oh,
of...
yeah. No, I'm not
everything from
nowhere
mosques to
near
the- oh, right, okay.
an expert on that. Yeah.
But you've got a core pattern in Islamic geometric design called the rose, which is a basic octagon. You know that?
No.
Okay. It's a very interesting thing. If you get light waves and you angle them around it, they line up to make a perfect octagon. Islamic geometric design.
I like
You know
it.
that?
I'll look into it. I'll definitely look into it after this.
And I've got a question for you.
Go on.
What do you think of the statement?
Sounds like an exam question, you know?
No, I'm just asking. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's
go on.
interesting.
Open up. Tell me what you want. Yeah.
Let's see if I can remember it. There can be. There's a statement, isn't there? There's this general statement that there can be no innovation in Islam. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
You have heard that. What do you think of that statement?
So the Prophet Muhammad said in a hadith, "Man ahdatha fi amrina hadha ma laysa minhu fahuwa rad." Whoever innovates into the religion that which is not in it, then it's rejected. So this is not talking about technological innovation. It's not talking about human innovation.
I know.
It's
I'm
talking about.
asking you, what do you think about
So
it?
I personally say that if the assumption is that Islam is true, with a capital T, then it cannot be added to or subtracted to.
So nothing can be, that you can't, innovation, you can't change something, you can't, like how it originally was, it has to be kept that way. Do you have a tasbih?
Who?
You have a tasbih?
What's that? Tasbih.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, in Egypt they call it tasbih.
Are you Muslim?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, we call it tasbih. I'm
got
Egyptian.
one?
I haven't got one at home. I use my fingers.
Yeah. What do you think of that's an innovation, though?
Wow, that's a really fiqhy question. This guy is coming. Wallahi. Oh my God, that's a really good question. You know,
It's an innovation.
this is a point of.
It's an innovation. It's an innovation because Muhammad used to use a little pile of stone.
No, he used to use his fingers.
He used to use a little pile of stones.
No, if you look at the hadith, which is a Muslim,
I got that from the guy who carries his.
it says that he uses
family
his
stuff.
hands. Because you know on our fingers, yeah, we've got 3, 1, 2, 3. So we go through our fingers. Subhanallah, alhamdulillah.
But the beads, therefore, are an innovation, aren't they?
No comment. No comment. Sorry, that's a fiqhy question.
Well, my point is this.
You got me now. I'm not going to talk
Point
about
is this:
Yeah,
if that can be an innovation,
you got me, man. I'm not going to answer
if
this.
that can be an innovation,
Yeah.
then what's stopping there from being any reformation of the faith?
Well, you know, in 1517, Martin Luther came and he wrote 95 Theses. And this was nailed on the walls of Wittenberg or whatever it was. It was called the Protestant Reformation.
And nobody bothered to turn up to debate any of his 95 points.
I think some did actually.
No, they didn't.
What do you mean? He was summoned to the.
No.
He was summoned to
That was all afterwards. You could go to the church, you could nail up anything you wanted to debate.
Yeah.
He put up his points he wanted to debate. No one bothered to turn up and debate.
Are you Catholic or something? Oh, okay. You seem like you've got some kind of resentment towards Martin Luther.
Martin Luther? No.
So-
My ancestors,
Yeah.
well, part of my family's ancestors, they were Calvinist Huguenots.
Oh,
French.
interesting, yeah.
French.
They used to live here, isn't it?
They emigrated.
Yeah,
from France.
that's right. Interesting. Point being is that
Who's got a light? Anyone?
no, I don't have like. Point being is that in the Christian sense, a reformation was going back to the biblical origins and stuff. If that's what you mean by reformation, which is a renewal, then that's what we believe in, right? We believe that we should always have renewal.
There's no monkery in Islam, right? It's illegal,
What?
isn't it?
What? Sorry.
Monkery.
We don't have a monkery, no.
Yeah,
we
you don't have monks. You don't have monkery. You don't have nuns. You don't have monks. You don't have anything like that.
No, we have ulama, we have scholars.
As I understand it, from what I've looked at it, you must not exist off the faith. You can't make a living off the faith. You've got to live in the real world. So that stops anyone from hijacking the religion and right, because if you get a bunch of people who become the exclusive elite, we run the religion, that's all we get paid to do, and we kind of tell everyone else how you should worship and how you should think and all the rest of it.
Yeah. It can become problematic.
Well, don't you think that's what's happening? Don't you think there's a raft all over the world of all these different imams now, all making their edicts and everything, and they're basically hijacking things? Do you not think that?
Yeah, I think it can happen, but it's more problematic in the Catholic Church. We don't have Vatican. We don't have Pope.
No, but you've got Al-Azhar University.
Yeah, they're not as powerful as the Pope by any stretch.
You don't think?
Oh, yeah, you're gonna eat your cigarette
No,
there.
I ain't got any filters left. So my point is that, what was this thing all about here today?
Tom Robinson tried to come down, his followers came down, and there was some kind of beef and tension.
Sorry, what do you mean by
As far as I understand it,
They did come
to
down.
take over the parking?
They came down, and there was some beef and tension.
He came down to read a speech that the government had tried to ban being brought here and read it in public, right? That was what it was about, right?
Something like that.
Right. Look how everyone's talking now.
Yeah.
I've just been wandering around since it happened, and all over there's little pockets of people all talking and dialoguing, which is the very thing that the government's trying to stop everyone doing.
Do you think they're trying to stop it?
Yeah, I do actually, I do, yeah.
But if they're trying to stop it, I'm with you. I don't want them
Well,
to
we
stop
wouldn't
it.
be having this
Otherwise, we wouldn't be coming here.
we wouldn't be having this conversation now
Yeah.
if that event hadn't took place today, would we?
Yeah, right.
So, there's a problem going on in that you've got a perception going on of the faith, right? And it's not just in Britain. I think you'd agree that it's in all, let's call them for the sake of a better argument, majority white Western nations, however much individuals within that society might adhere to